And welcome in to Smoky Row in downtown Oskaloosa for Steve Shetler Media. We are kicking off Tuesday night Tune-Up TNT here on Steve Shetler Media, as we do every Tuesday night, getting you tuned up for the race week ahead. We do thank our sponsors, including Milo's Tree Service, Sinclair Napa, Van Donsler Automotive, Sigourney Body Shop, Sigourney Motors, and Sigourney Tree Care. Let's take it up to our host, Safe Grafke. Go ahead and take it away. By the way, Safe, you were saying how today was an interesting day. You had a nice end to the day with a new ride. Tell us all about it. I'm putting you on the spot.
All right, well, great. Hey, welcome back, race fans, to TNT, the Tuesday night tune-up. We are so glad that you guys got to join us here again. This is week number 2, the second Tuesday night tune-up. We are so happy to see you all. We have a lot of great results to get here through tonight. We have some interesting things going on with the World Outlaw World, the High Limit Series. We have some tire issues to talk about as well. And we also have a special guest joining us here tonight for an interview. That's all coming up next here on TNT, the Tuesday night tune-up.
All righty, let's get to our sponsors that are making our broadcast possible here on Steve Shetler Media. That includes Milo's Tree Service. You can get a free estimate. Contact Chris Minter at 641-683-2627. We thank Sinclair Napa for bringing us our broadcast tonight. You can go to sinclairnapa.com. Also, Van Donsler Automotive for diagnostics, brakes, oil changes, and more at 801 High Avenue W in Oskaloosa, 641-676-5239. We got Sigourney Body Shop at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney, along with Sigourney Motors for sales and service at 641-224-8056, and then Sigourney Tree Care, Zeb Webb at 641-622-2097. Let's go back to Safe with Tuesday night tune-up live from Smoky Row.
Welcome back, race fans, as we are here now, and we are very excited to announce here that we have our interview of the night. We have Will Wolf joining us here. Will runs in the Sport Mod division here in Iowa. And Will, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself right now? Tell us who you are and what you're all about.
Well, I'm 30. I'm from Grinnell. Started racing when I was 4 and go-karts, and slowly moved up. And when we moved to Iowa, I'm like, there's really no go-kart racing around here. So I was looking for something else to do and found the Sport Mods and trying to learn as much as we can.
Absolutely. So, you said you've raced since you're 4 years old. A lot of go-kart experience with you. How much of that knowledge from go-kart racing can you move over into the world of a Sport Mod?
I think the biggest thing is trying to drive smooth, and I like to drive in a lot straighter than a lot of these guys do. A lot of them like to hang it out. I don't know if that is good or bad, but driving straighter and being smooth is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. So, geometry is a big thing in cars, your shock packages, where you move your weight and stuff like that. How is that transition going, trying to learn how you need to have your shocks, spring, what rates are all different and whatnot. A go-kart's more or less a little more level, really have a lot of geometry going on. What's that been like for you?
So obviously in go-karts, the biggest thing is tires. You don't have shocks, you don't have springs, nothing like that. So just trying to learn what I need, like what I feel and what I need as far as shock or a different spring and what that does. It's been a long learning curve, and I'm still have no clue on that, but I have good people around me this year that are helping with that a lot. So
absolutely, that's a big thing, is getting the right people in your corner. And then there's a lot of different chassis manufacturers out there. We touched on this last week with Jason Van Zomeren, and we had Curtis here as well, and we were talking about how there's a lot more chassis builders now than there were before. So when you go into purchasing a chassis, is there a certain one that you feel right now you're able to maybe do more with, or is a better learning car for you per se?
I think it's really just where you'll have the most support, and the people I'm surrounded with now. I just got a new car, and I feel like that was, for me, the best choice right now. but it's all about just the support. If you have your support group runs this chassis, then you're going to be better off there rather than this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cost of racing has got so high now. Tire costs, sheet metal, even. I mean, cars used to be painted. Now we're putting graphics on. Those wraps get really expensive. One thing is, there's always the big debate on running a crate engine or an open engine. What motor have you decided to go with, and maybe why have you gone into that process of that motor choice?
So when I got into a sport mod a little over 2 years ago, we went with a crate just because that's what I was told is, the best to learn with. I still feel like I have a long way to go as far as learning. So we're going to stick with a crate for now. But once I get to the point where I'm, competitive, we'll probably switch to the open.
Sure. So what's a typical race week look like for you? I mean, like Monday to Sunday. Why don't you take us through what all goes in at Will Wolf Racing for that week?
So Sunday night, Monday night, we'll unload go-kart and sport mod, clean it up, go through everything. Monday, do tires. Tuesday, we'll finish everything up, maintenance, load up for off-ski on Wednesdays. Get back. I really probably this year won't even take the car home. I'll take it to work and change gear and everything there, because when Bloomfield races, we'll go there Thursday. I have to do the same thing on Thursday at lunch, switch gears, and go to Marshalltown Friday night. And then Saturday, Ashley, my girlfriend's daughter, will run a go-kart at Newton. And then Sunday, wash everything up and do it all over again.
Absolutely. So you said your girlfriend's daughter is running a kart. So has that been pretty good for you to be able to have the knowledge in a kart and then help her with that? What's that been looking like for you, helping someone knowing that you drove a kart for so long? Do you feel like that's been a good edge for you?
I think so. I enjoy just helping, younger kids in go-karts. I mean, before Riley, I was helping a bunch of kids in flat karts, and it's just seeing the smile on their face when they run well. It's pretty cool.
So, Will, Oski's a bigger track than the other two that you plan on running. What are some of the challenges you see running a half-mile track versus a 3/8 mile track or a quarter-mile track?
Well, my first race, actually, I haven't been back here since my first race in a sport mod, and that was a story in itself. But, I mean, putting in my head that, hey, from what I've heard, you don't lift here, and, that's the biggest thing is having that in my head and just overcoming that.
Absolutely. And, I've seen you race all over. I follow you on Facebook, and, it always seems like people have always said for the longest time that Southeast Iowa produces some of the toughest race car drivers in Iowa. Being around here now, do you feel like that is a myth, or does that have somewhat some good truth to it?
I mean, it's true. I mean, just in the sport mods, you have Bray, you have Logan, you have Dylan, McGuire, Vandenberg. Those guys can go anywhere and win any night. And, even outside of that, you got great stock car guys, you got great modified guys. There's a bunch of good cars down here.
Absolutely. And so you're going to race Oski on Wednesdays, Thursdays on whenever Bloomfield decides to run, and then Fridays at Marshalltown. Right. Can we expect to see the 69 machine, 68? I am so sorry, 68 machine anywhere else than just those three tracks?
Well, when Riley doesn't race at Newton, we'll go to Boone. Some Sundays we'll go to Vinton. Riley really likes that track to go and help me and watch and all that. And then maybe I've been talked into trying Eldon and some of these other places around here. I really like Burlington and Columbus Junction, so whenever it works out, I'd like to go to those places.
Absolutely. One thing I found interesting with you, Will, is that I've seen it a few times now where you have taken your dirt car, you've taken it to Hawkeye Downs and ran it on pavement. what kind of transition is that like, putting that thing on a pavement track versus a dirt track?
So it was actually a blast. I mean, it's pavement, so a lot of guys are gonna be like, well, I don't want to do that. All we did, chain the left rear down. You have to run your IMCA rules, so it's an IMCA sport mod on asphalt, and I mean, it's really, throttle control is huge on that. Just being smooth and throttle control. So
do you feel like maybe that's a good thing to do, so you can learn that and then apply that to a dirt track setting with your throttle control, or are they two just completely separate things in and of themselves?
I mean, like I said, I'm still trying to learn this class. I mean, I'm nowhere near like what some of these guys down here can do, but I feel like for me, learning throttle control there will help me, other places.
Absolutely. And well, it takes an army, it seems, to be able to make these programs go now with, again, the rising costs of everything. Why don't you tell us who's on board with you this year?
So Craig Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Craig Chevrolet, Sorrells Auto and Truck Parts, Beautiful Lawns by Longs, Dirt and Asphalt,
Hint, hint.
Eastern Iowa Trailer Sales, and Drew Jansen Racing.
That's awesome. Well, Will, do you have anything else maybe you want to say to anyone that's never came to the Southern Iowa Speedway, or maybe they're thinking about getting into sport mod racing, they haven't yet?
Just come out, hang out, and watch, and give it a try.
Absolutely. Well, Will, thank you for coming on here tonight. Folks, that's going to wrap up our interview portion here of the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. Up next, we're going to have some results to talk about here right after this commercial break. Steve, to you.
All righty. Thank you, Safe. And again, our sponsors for tonight's broadcast include Milo's Tree Service. You can contact Chris Minter with free estimates at 641-683-2627. We've got Sinclair Napa on board as a sponsor. Go to sinclairnapa.com. Van Donsler Automotive. You can give them a call at 641-676-5239. We thank Sigourney Body Shop at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney, as well as Sigourney Motors, 641-224-8056. And then Sigourney Tree Care gives Zeb Webb a call at 641-622-2097. Let's go back to Safe with more of the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. Safe.
Welcome back, race fans. Again, we want to thank Will Wolf and the 68 Sport Mod for joining us here tonight and having a nice little chat about what it takes to be getting into the Sport Mod class. Again, we're excited to see Will racing here Wednesday nights at the Southern Iowa Speedway, along with Bloomfield Speedway and at Marshalltown. Make sure you come out to your local dirt track, support them, support your local drag strip. We have Eddyville. We need to keep racing going here. It's been a struggling thing. We've seen some track closures and some other stuff like that, so it's very important that we keep our local tracks going however we can. So now it's the fun part of the night where we get to go through some of the results from over the weekend and this past week. So let's get down into it here. We'll start out again with the World of Outlaws Sprint Cars. Saturday night they visited Tri-State Speedway in Hobbstown, Indiana for the Hobbstown Showdown. And we saw a new winner here. He is not a current full-time driver with the World Outlaw Tour, so it's nice to see some of these other guys getting in there. And it would be the Macho Man, Brady Bacon, winning with the World Outlaws at Tri-State Speedway. It's always awesome to see the Macho Man getting a victory in that number 69 car. Second place, he's also your current points leader. That's the number 2 in the Big Game Motorsports. That is David Gravel. Third place would boast the new and upcoming driver. He's been around for a couple years, but it's first time full-time with the World of Outlaws. It was the 83 JR of Buddy Kofoid. Fourth place, the JJR number 41 driver, Carson Macedo. And in fifth place, we had the 1S of Logan Schuhart. Quick time on the night was David Gravel. So David is having a spectacular year this year. He feels like there's a lot less of the heavy hitters, but enough to where it's still going to be an interesting points battle in the World of Outlaws this year. He's looking to secure his first ever World of Outlaw points championship. Right now, he's currently sitting first place in points. Second, the ever fierce Donnie Schatz. He's no stranger to victory lane or winning World of Outlaw points championships. Third place, Hot Sauce Giovanni Selzy. Fourth place, the 1S of Logan Schuhart. Another driver in the top 5 here, and we're looking for him to move up some spots. That's the number 41 car, Carson Macedo. Macedo feels like this year the team is rebuilding, but he could still win the points title if needed. He still has Phil Dietz wrenching on the car and everything. Just some new faces. Clyde Knipp left the team to go start his own fiber deal, and so that's been kind of tough for Carson losing Clyde Knipp, but he still thinks that team is in a rebuilding year, but they could still win. We're excited to see what happens with the progression here, as this Friday night the World of Outlaws will be invading the Knoxville Raceway for the first ever Chevy Premier Dealer Clash. So we'll look forward to seeing all of the Outlaw drivers. This is also the season opener for Knoxville Speedway, so it's going to be interesting to see if any of these guys can knock the rust off and beat some of these Outlaw drivers as they make their first trip to Knoxville for the year. We normally don't see the Outlaw guys until the June time for the Brownells Big Gun Bash. Now we're going to have them here earlier in the year now, and that's going to really shake some things up. It's going to make an interesting season at Knoxville, as if some of the regulars aren't up there this weekend. It could be interesting what's going to happen with the points deal later on at Knoxville and just the regular season. Secondly, we need to talk about the World Outlaw Late Model Tour. On Friday night, they were at the Talladega Short Track, running the Alabama Gang 100. And again, another new driver and a local to the Alabama area, Dylan Knowles, picks up his first win with the World Outlaw Late Model Tour. Second is going to go to Brandon Overton. Third, Trey Mills. Fourth, Chris Madden. And in fifth, Drake Troutman. Madden and Overton are the only two World Outlaw drivers that placed in the top 5 over the weekend in the late model division. So we're seeing a lot of changes now with the World Outlaw late models, as a lot of the full-time drivers have pulled off the tour due to tire issues, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the World Outlaw late model tour. Points-wise, Brandon Shepard is still in first. Chris Madden jumped from 4th all the way up into 2nd in points. Nick Hoffman now 3rd in points. Cade Dillard still holds on to 4th, and in 5th is still Tyler Brewing from Decorah, Iowa. Their next race, Friday night, they'll be at Arrowhead Speedway, and Saturday they will be over in Wichita at 81 Speedway. Those events can be found live on Dirt Vision. The High Limit Series invaded Salina High Bank Speedway over the weekend, and his first win of the year, the Big Cat, Brad Sweet, finally picks up a win in his own series. It's taken him a while to get to victory lane, but the Big Cat definitely showed his claws as he hustled his way to the front, had to fight off a really hard charging and the current race leader at the time, James McFadden. There's a little bit of a tussle there between those two. Sweet got into the side there of James McFadden on the last lap, causing McFadden to go end over end off of one of the high banks, and just it was a really hard deal to watch. James took quite a tumble there in the 83 car. Brad was definitely not feeling good in victory lane. He felt like he made a mistake there, and James thought the same thing, that he might have made a mistake. It was kind of hard. It was just one of those racing deals, and unfortunately the 83 car didn't get to finish, but the Big Cat, Brad Sweet, finally getting in to victory lane with the High Limit Series. The Myerstown Missile, Brent Marks, capped off another great week with the High Limit Series as he came home 2nd place. 3rd place was Rico Abreu. 4th, Jacob Allen. And 5th, Sunshine Tyler Courtney. This is the first time in the last week that Corey Day has not finished on the top 5 list with the High Limit Series after he won the last 2 in a row. It's going to be interesting to see what the 16-year-old driver out of California has up his sleeve for the rest of the year. And because of Corey not being in the top 5 this weekend, he did fall a little bit in the point standing. Sunshine still in first. Brad Sweet moves up to second. Brent Marks stays in third. Corey Day has dropped down to fourth. And Jacob Allen runs out the top 5th. It's really awesome to see Jacob doing so well after taking the second half of last year off. He announced right before the Knoxville Nationals that he was actually just going to be done sprint car racing. No one knew how long we were going to see him out for or anything like that. He's come back this year with a full head of steam running the High Limit Series, and what an improvement with the 1A of Jacob Allen. And if you want to tune in after this is over, the High Limit Series is actually in action tonight. You can watch them on Flow Racing as they invade Riverside Speedway. The Lucas Oil Late Model Series has kind of been on a hold with Mother Nature taking out most of their races. Their last race was March 9th. They're looking for this Friday to finally get back into action out at Georgetown Speedway. It'll be interesting to see if the Lucas Oil Late Model Series can finally get some more races in. Again, the end of March was their last race. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there with the Lucas Oil Series, as we see a lot of drivers switching over to that. A lot of tire issues with these late models. It's just been a really interesting time. You know, they changed the compound, what's going to happen, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where we get into some of the juice of what's going on right now in the world of racing. So we're going to take a little break, and we're going to get into some heavy stuff here in just a minute. Steve, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Safe. And again, we do thank all of our sponsors for making our broadcast possible tonight. That includes Chris Minter at Milo's Tree Service. Give Chris a call at 641-683-2627. After that, check out SinclairNapa.com. We thank Sinclair Napa for helping us bring our broadcast tonight. Van Donslar Automotive, they can help you out with a bunch of stuff there. 641-676-5239. We head over to Sigourney. We've got Sigourney Body Shop. Give them a call at 641-622-2022. Sigourney Motors at 641-224-8056. And then Sigourney Tree Care, owned and operated by Zeb Webb, 641-622-2097. For the juice, let's go back to Safe Grafke. Juice, what's up? Juice, what's up? Safe, what's up? We're gonna start calling you Juice.
All right, there we go. Okay, new nickname over here. We went from unsafe to Juice, so what a series of events. Well, folks, this is the part of the night where I'd love to read some comments later on your thoughts and opinions about this. So we're going to get right into it now. A few years ago, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a different sport here, but one that most dirt racers are involved in, believe it or not. We're going to look back at the world of golf here. A few years ago, the PGA was always the tour to be on. All the big names in golf were on the PGA Tour until a new Saudi-backed program came called Live Golf. Live Golf came in, took DJ and a bunch of the other great golfers that we know, and then we had a divided field. We had Live players versus PGA players, and now we're seeing that into the racing world as Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson a few years ago decided to start a new series called the High Limits Racing Group. High Limits was going to be a series that ran on weeknights throughout the weeks when the World Outlaws weren't competing. They were going to run for big money, and it was going to be something completely different than just having a weekend sprint car race. Kyle and Brett started the adventure together, and from that last year, we saw the selling of Tony Stewart's All-Star Circuit of Champions go to the Big Cat and Young Money. After that happened, the racing world and the sprint car division got flipped on its head as we saw Brad and Kyle announce that they were going to run a full-time series now since they bought the All-Star Circuit of Champions. With that, we see big payouts, high risk, and high rewards because it's not called High Limits for no reason. It's been a series full of lots of drama and changes. We saw most of the World of Outlaw guys have to make a decision on whether they were going to stay a true outlaw or if they were going to roll the dice and go to the High Limit Series. The line was divided right before the season started in Volusia as drivers made their mind on if they were going to roll the dice or stay an outlaw. With that, we saw over half the field split, and now it has become one of the biggest competitions in sprint car history, as you now have the high limits drivers versus the World of Outlaw drivers. We saw this a few weeks ago after Giovanni Scelzi and Jacob Allen got into it on the track, and ever from there, it has transgressed into a social media outburst between both drivers arguing back and forth, and now we see what is going to happen when we have the Outlaws and the High Limit guys come together at Knoxville for the Nationals in August. Sure, there will be many races before that, but nothing is going to be bigger than if an Outlaw or a High Limits guy will win Nationals this year. What will happen at the Knoxville Nationals, and that's what I want all of you to comment. Are we going to have a High Limits guy win? Is the World Outlaw driver going to win it? Honestly, it could go either way at this point. Brad Sweet decided to become a high limit driver and run in the own series that he runs. What does that mean for the World of Outlaws? Well, I can tell you this. It means maybe for the first time in the last 5 years, we're going to see a new points champion, as Brad has won 5 in a row. It's going to be really interesting there as David Gravels in his hunt for the first. You have Carson Macedo, Logan Schuchart all up there battling for that points lead, but you still have Donnie Schatz running. Schatz had a horrible year last year. That Ford motor was not running well, and it felt like the car just wasn't the same, and we didn't know what was going to happen to Donnie Schatz. Is this year he brings it all back together because the big cat isn't a threat anymore? Or is Brad the guy that everyone needs to be at the Nationals this year? It's going to be interesting, though, like I said, with the World Outlaw points, who is going to win that? Who's going to be the next Brad Sweet in the Outlaws? Is it going to be David Gravel? Will it be Carson Macedo? Maybe even Logan Schuchart. Could be Giovanni Scelzi, the young man out of California, only 19 years old. I don't know. It's going to be a weird year. And another battle we have going on now is within the Outlaws themselves. A lot of tension now between Buddy Kofoid and David Gravel after a tangle-up last Friday night. Both drivers exchanged words on and off the track afterwards, and now we have another feud within the World of Outlaws. It almost seems like the racing world is more stressed out and more competitive and more unsure than ever before after the split that we saw right before Volusia in January. Kind of makes you wonder what is going to exactly happen with the future of sprint cars. Maybe they'll have a merger just like Live Golf and the PGA. But maybe we won't, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens between both of these series moving forward. Another thing we touched on a little bit is the late model tire issue. After Hoosier announced their new compound that the World Outlaw Series has made mandatory to run, we are seeing more tires blow on the back of these cars than ever before. They can't handle like they used to. What does this mean for the World Outlaws? Is this a black eye to them? Is something happening within that organization that we don't know about? Is Hoosier really gone this far downhill and someone needs to come in and save the day? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered things right now going on in the racing world. I feel like it has to do with everything that transpired on the sprint car side with the split between the High Limits and the World Outlaws. There's a lot of discrepancies in that organization now as we see a lot of people leaving, a lot of new faces. Flow Racing is taking over on the TV side with about everyone. Dirt Vision really can't grow anymore between the 3 series. Are the World Outlaws even going to be a thing here in a few years? Seems like everyone's going to the Lucas Oil Series on the late model side. I mean, heck, we didn't even really see anyone except for Overton and Madden in the top 5 with them. So what's going to happen there? It's a weird year. There's so many unknowns. The cost is through the roof now. We're having tire issues. We're having feuds with drivers and series and all this. It's not the same racing it was a few years ago. It's completely 180'd. It's scary to think about. Tracks closing all the time. Everything else going on. I mean, what's next? It's hard to think about. Heck, the price of motors have gone up so high that if you don't have a big sponsor for some of these teams anymore, corporate sponsors, you can't be competitive. It's nice to see guys, though, like Josh Knowles, some of these other drivers getting up there and showing their teeth and competing with the best of the best and beating them. On our local tracks, what are we going to see this year? High car counts, low car counts. The cost of racing is so high. You heard it from Curtis and Jason last week. We're just in a completely different world. We all need to come together and figure something out to make racing more affordable from the average Joe to the outlaw. And I hope that's what we can do. So that's what I have for the juice. Here's what we have for upcoming races in this area that everyone needs to go to. Tomorrow night is finally the season opener at the Southern Iowa Speedway. I double-checked my phone on commercial to make sure it wasn't canceled. I definitely should have done that last week, but we didn't. So tomorrow night, hot laps, 7:15. I'm expecting to see everyone that watched this there. If you can't, figure out a way for the week after that. But tomorrow night, season opener at the Southern Iowa Speedway, the Monster Half Mile. Saturday night, if you're looking for somewhere to go, you could head on down to Lee County Speedway. It's a Drive for 5 event down there. Hot laps start at 6 p.m. Friday night, make sure you stop down at Columbus Junction. Highway 92 is closed, but they have a map with the detour for everyone to still get there. Columbus Junction is a fantastic track. I'm sure they miss Larry Richardson running the show down there, but I have complete faith in that fair board and the people they brought in to run that track now. So hot laps start at 7 o'clock Friday night at CJ Speedway. Boone Speedway will be in competition as always on Saturday night. Really good classes up there. Boone has been competitive this year. A lot of guys going up there trying some new stuff out. Obviously, we're a ways away from Super Nationals, but this is the time to start testing, maybe trying different setups and whatnot. And then the season opener for Marshalltown Speedway is this Friday night. Hot laps start at 6:45. If you can't be there, you can watch on Flow Racing. So, make sure that we go support these local tracks this year. Keep growing it. I'll have more stuff on Eddyville and what's going on down there once they get their season rolling. It just hasn't started yet. Drag racing, we're getting closer to the start of that, but we're not quite there. There's just so much going on in the motorsports world right now, and on the NASCAR side, we're seeing a lot of new things, a lot of penalties going on there as well. It's just a weird time, though. The new Cup cars are a lot different. We're seeing a lot more penalties with like Larson's car and with the roof rail deal there. And the penalties are just getting outrageous in that. I mean, I don't know. Racing's taking a really weird turn right now, and I hope it can get better, because this needs to be around for generations and generations to come. And honestly, the way we're going, I don't know if that's going to happen. So let's make dirt track racing great again. Everyone get to your local dirt track this week. Again, tomorrow night, season opener at the Southern Iowa Speedway. We want to see y'all there. If you want to see the Outlaws in town this weekend for the one of 3 showings at Knoxville, Friday night, brand new thing, the Premier Chevy Dealer Clash. Make sure you get out there and,